I'm a feminist and I'm a pro-abortion person.
Oh, do you want to talk about that or no?
Sure.
Okay, that's something I'm I'm more interested in talking about. I guess do you want to give your layout for why abortion should be morally
Nobody
permissible?
has the right to use somebody else's body without consent.
Nobody has
I'm
the.
renal. I'm actually kidney failure. I do dialysis 4 days a week.
Uh-huh.
I have no right to walk up to you and plug myself into your kidneys to save my life
Of,
against your consent.
of course you don't. There's not disagreement
Right.
there, but there's a
And a fetus doesn't
response.
get special rights either.
Oh, the fetus. I don't know what you mean. Oh, there's a lot of right evoking of rights. I guess. What do you think a right is?
That don't exist, and you don't get human rights if you don't exist as a human yet. So you need to simmer down.
Okay, I love the 2v1 needed to talk
The
to
spare parts.
me.
Chill. Sorry. Go ahead. You had a question.
Yeah, I'll address the autonomy considerations that you have, but I was just curious as to when you're saying I don't have a right to do this, the fetus doesn't have a right to do that. What do you mean when you say they don't have a right to do it?
Fetus doesn't have a right to somebody else's body.
No, I'm asking what do you mean by right?
You know what I mean by right.
Actually, no. I mean, there's a lot of people
Yeah,
in the
you do,
voices,
because you're
and
a thinking agent and you're a person and I assume American, and you know what rights are.
No, no. I'll give an explanation. Not only do a lot of people invoke the term differently on TikTok, they talk about it differently in certain literature. I also don't even believe in the same notion of rights that you probably believe in. I can give you my view, but that's why I'm asking what you mean. Do you mean like,
So he didn't define what his definition of rights was either. And you guys trying to claim that your religious belief holds a different value as to what rights are referred to in this conversation is that you're not going to find a moving ground, and you know that.
can you, I don't know if you responded to me. I had to mute really quick.
It's very simple. A woman or a pregnant person has bodily autonomy rights.
Yeah, but
Their
when you
life,
say rights, are
their
you just,
body doesn't belong to anybody except them.
yeah, well, my
Not even a
question,
fetus.
okay. So my question wasn't to restate the premise. It was, what do you mean by right? But if you don't know, that's fine. I can give you my notion and you'd see if you agree.
Sure.
To me, I just take rights talk and like, if you're talking about obligations, just to mean like, if you did this, it would be a morally good action. If you didn't do this, it'd be a morally bad action. Like you did something wrong if you didn't do this. You did something good if you did
Morals and
stuff like
rights
this.
are not the same thing.
Sorry?
Morals and rights are not the same thing.
Okay, so when I asked what you meant by rights and you didn't want to give me a notion, then don't tell me that there's a verbal disagreement right now.
Oh, she's getting mad. Can I break out
No,
first?
why do you think I tried when I asked you, what do you take a right to be? It was so that we didn't have to have some verbal disagreement 5 minutes into the conversation.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't necessarily. How do you define rights? How do you define a right?
Yeah, well, I just told you. I think when you're
Morality.
saying, sorry, no, that's vague. So I'm saying, if for example I say, you prima facie, like you have a right to life. I think what that means is that other people have an obligation not to kill you. Obviously, unless there's considerations like self-defense and stuff. That's what I take a right to be. It's just
Right. So considerations.
sure. So
You could consider abortion self-defense.
well, what's the argument for that? I mean, that's a different claim. Why would I?
Pregnancy is a medical condition. Hold on, Spare. Pregnancy is a medical condition that can cause harm.
What medical condition that can cause harm?
Sure is.
That's really vague. Like, is this going to apply
No, it's
to
not
mother?
really vague. That's really simple. It's actually defined as a medical condition by the medical community.
Oh, sorry. I was actually in this.
And a
I was in the
fetus
middle of this.
can potentially threaten the life and well-being of its host.
I was in the middle of actually, usually I don't make claims. I'll like kind of explain them in the sentence. So when I was like, this is vague because I was hoping to give you an explanation. Do you mind if I can just knock out the bottom guest really quick if we can get this conversation out of the way so she can mute? Like, I can't talk to both you guys at the same time. It's just too chaotic.
Well, I'll let you repeat yourself to Ethan.
No, I really just want to have a conversation that flows. So do you want to get what you need to say out of the way?
No, because you won't let me.
No, go ahead. I'm sure it's really important to the discussion. Go ahead.
That's going to be 1 Timothy 2:12.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so back to what I was saying. That's what I mean.
Do you know what that verse is?
That's
You
what I
did not
mean
let
when
me.
I'm
You did
talking-
not.
That's
You see
what I
again.
mean when I'm
Do you know what
talking.
that verse says?
Who is the look? I don't want to get kicked on your live, so I'm actually being careful of my language here. But I don't really know what this person.
We're not having a conversation about the Bible. We're having a conversation about abortion. Let's just
Okay.
go with that.
I guess when you're saying it's self-defense, what do you mean by that? You just mean that there's a possibility that this thing can cause you harm?
Yeah.
Is there a possibility that your infant can cause you harm while you're breastfeeding?
Not to the same degree.
Not to the same degree. What does degree mean there? Do you just mean like some probability that it's going to cause?
So let's look at the most recent example in the media. Katie Cox in Texas was 7 months pregnant with a stillborn, or with a child that wasn't fully developed, with a fetus that wasn't fully developed. And doctors told her that if she didn't get it removed, it could either potentially risk her life or prevent her from being able to get pregnant again. Now, I don't know about you, but I would consider that a threat.
Wait, we can get into legal cases, because just because I'm pro-life doesn't mean
I
I
don't
would.
want legal cases. I'm talking about issue of abortion. I don't give a fuck about the legal cases.
I would just really appreciate if I could finish the sentence, since I let you finish. The point I was making is we could talk about cases that are actually happening, because just because I'm labeled pro-life, it doesn't mean that I would agree with certain legislation. I just want to make that clear. That's not representative of me. That's just representative of a bigger vote.
But I get it. But the problem with it is it becomes a slippery slope. When you advocate against abortion, this is where it goes.
I think even from
I'm actually straight, you fucking idiots. Thank you.
Spare, stop paying attention to the comments. I don't pay attention to the comments. Why are you paying attention to the comments? The comments are bullshit. Fuck them.
All right. I'll stop. Sorry about that. Glock, please proceed.
Thank you. I agree that I guess let's just find some agreement first. Is obviously, none of us are going to agree that autonomy is some absolute right. I
think that autonomy is an absolute right. Why wouldn't I?
Okay, so.
And why would I want the government making medical decisions for anybody?
If you think it's an absolute right, like, that's just insane. I mean, I don't know what motivations you'd have to holding that. Like, you think that.
So what right do I have over you?
Well, no, I'll explain why. Well, first of all, I want to target the absolute right thing. Like, do you think that if I go up to you and without your consent, I pluck one piece of hair out of your head to stop the entire world from like a mass suffering, you think that I did something wrong? So
we're going to use unrealistic concepts and hypotheticals to make a point?
Do you know what a universal right is?
Yeah.
Universal right is unnecessarily, by the way, invoking that this applies in all cases. So your view would entail that I did something wrong by saving the entire world and plucking a piece of your hair. So there's no need to hold it universally. We can agree that you have some prima facie right.
You did do something wrong. You violated my autonomy without my consent.
To be clear, just so I understand your view.
When what you could have done, if you were like an adult, is asked me for a piece of hair, which I could have then plucked out myself and gave to you to save humanity.
Yeah, but you can you know how hypotheticals work, so let's just alter it a bit to where someone said, no, I don't want you to pluck a piece of my hair.
Then I guess we're fucked.
So no, that's, can you just engage with the hypothetical? So you're not plucking it. Just say that the government is. They go to this person's house. And
I don't need a hypothetical of something that's never going to happen.
So
completely pointless. It's a pointless hypothetical. It's never going to happen.
I don't get paid to teach like what the purpose of hypotheticals. So I guess we'll just move forward. But the point is, when you invoke a universal right, it means it applies in all cases. So your view would explain why me plucking a piece of hair is actually wrong, even if it saves the entire planet. Just so we're clear on that. Which that's just absurd.
Okay, it's absurd. That's what I think.
Yeah. Okay.
It's no less absurd than believing in a god, especially one that condones child rape.
That's just. I mean, are we just? Do you want to talk about what you ate this morning? Like, what does that have to do with the conversation?
Well, we're bringing up random hypotheticals.
It's so you wait. I mean, if you're being intellectually honest here, you think that hypothetical
I'm being
was
intellectually
random to the
honest. I agree
conversation?
that women have bodily fucking autonomy, and no fetus and no person has a right to violate that. Period.
I have hair if you want
When
some.
I said, well, hold on. When you said because I don't like to be mischaracterized. So I just want you to know that the reason I brought in the hypothetical was because I wanted to show you what an absolute right is doing for you.
It was unnecessary. Again, that's not a realistic thing that's ever going to fucking happen. Try dealing with
that.
realism.
What do you mean by never going to happen?
Realism. In a realistic situation, we have absolute rights.
There's two
to
things.
Autonomy.
That's not true. There's two things. There's two things that I can mention. Number one is I don't know what you mean by could never happen.
It's fine. We don't have rights to absolute autonomy. Get on with your fucking point.
I don't know why you're getting emotional. I'm just trying to explain.
I'm not. I'm getting flabbergasted.
I've got a question for you.
We don't have rights. We don't have rights. Fine. What's your fucking point?
No, I don't agree with that. I'm just a rational human being that says we have rights prima facie. Like you.
Oh, you're got it.
What did they say?
What's your point? What's your point?
It sounded like you said irrational, and earlier you liked to call somebody else on their misspoken word.
Fair. Hold on. What's your point, Glock?
That's the disagreement is that I don't think that you have a right to use your body to kill the fetus, and obviously I can give an argument for that. But I was trying to find agreement.
The fetus has special rights.
Abortion, a woman is not using her body to kill a fetus, so no.
Hold on, Sarah, hold on. So the fetus has special rights that nobody else has.
What's the argument?
The fetus has special rights that no other human has.
Oh, no, not what's the premise again. I said, what's the argument?
I just asked you.
That's not a question. You gave a statement.
Have special rights. Does a fetus have special rights that nobody else has?
Or we're adding does in front of it to ask me because we're not giving an argument. Okay. Does the fetus have special rights? No. What? If you think so, just make the argument.
Then why are you even still here?
All right.
Oh, that's a dodge.
I'm done.
Okay, run away.
Yeah, I'm gonna because this is absolutely fucking
I
asinine.
accept your surrender. That's fine.
Yeah, it's not a surrender. It's kicking your ass off my live because.
I'm sorry. I don't know what you mean by sanctified script. Do you know what I mean by abortion literature? Or like, I'm talking about.
No, I don't.
Literature are synonymous with one another.
What you mean by abortion literature?
I'm talking about philosophers that analyze the topic.
Philosophical argument.
We're talking about doctors. I'm sorry. I gotta stop. I'm gonna drop because I can't. Sorry.
Thank you for dropping.
Don't thank me, Glock. Don't ever address me again.
Yeah.
I don't consent.
Okay. I don't want a philosophical argument for something that hurts people physically. I just don't.
I'm kind of confused. Are you aware that medical professionals also engage in the conversation about medical ethics?
Yeah, I understand. I get it. I don't care. That's their job, not mine.
Wait, if you're saying you're just going to reject my argument, I can't give you any argument if you say I don't want to hear an argument.
Because here's the thing. Abortion is a benefit. It is a medical benefit and a medical necessity. Not only does it help individual people when they're in the worst position in their fucking life, but it helps society. Roe v. Wade was written very specifically that third term or third trimester or late term abortions were specifically only in the event that it was a harm to the mother or the child who had been born unalive or whatever. They're extreme medical condition. Roe v. Wade was written very well, and there was no reason to tear it down. It hurts people.
Okay. I think it hurts individuals that I would not legislate against them getting an abortion, like if there's certain fetal anomalies or medical conditions in pregnancy. But if you have a healthy pregnancy, I think it's absolutely immoral to get an abortion and it should be illegal.
So children should starve to death instead.
Children should starve to death instead.
So you have a mother with 3 children and a father. You have a mother and a father with 3 children, and they are both working full time, and they're barely making ends meet, and then she's pregnant. Should all 3 of those children starve to death because you have a high horse?
I just want to understand the hypothetical. There's parents, they have 3 kids. Are they home? Because you're saying they're going to starve to death if one more child's added, so they're homeless or something?
Not yet, but one more child to put them there.
They're not, and so then the parents made the decision to add in a 4th child, and knowing they're not going to.
Not every pregnancy is fucking intended.
I'm not talking about intent. Well, hold on. As long as the act was consensual, then there's some threshold of probability that you can instantiate another being into being dependent on you.
That's like saying you consent to a car accident because you drive a car.
I don't grant that analogy. I'm just saying.
It is an identical analogy.
No, well, I don't grant that, but we can move past that point.
Tell that to the children who will be homeless and starving because of it.
Hold on. I'm trying to understand your hypothetical. So there's a consensual act that they engaged in. Did they have knowledge that this act has a threshold of probability that another being would be?
Doesn't matter.
That I didn't ask if it mattered to you.
He's on birth control and he used a condom and it just fucking happened.
Yeah, I want to be clear. I'm not asking if it mattered to you. I'm just asking if it's true of the hypothetical. So, okay. Just want to make sure that was consensual. So, yeah, I think that.
Or a meth head who's never made a good decision in their life got pregnant.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you not want me to address the first one? In both cases, they're going to be the same conclusion. The conclusion's that killing the fetus is worse than not killing the fetus, and them being
it's not
raised
killing. It's ending a pregnancy.
Ending a pregnancy, and what's the conclusion to the fetus's life if you agree that they're living?
It's irrelevant. They're not a person.
Well, wait, hold on. To kill something. I mean, most people don't think animals are persons, but do you have the ability to kill an animal? Of course you do.
They are a thinking entity. They may not be a person, but they are an entity.
Do you think that ants are thinking entities?
Is it moral for a lioness to eat her cub?
Wait. Hold on. When I ask a question, why do you ask me one back before answering? That doesn't help the flow of conversation.
Because I don't understand your fucking question for starters.
You can totally kill non-persons. That's just that's just obvious. Like, no one usually disagrees with that. Of course it's a killing. Right, you can say it's a justified one.
Why is it different for humans?
Sorry, why is it different? Why is what different for humans?
If it's amoral for a lioness to eat her cub, why is it a moral issue for humans?
Oh, okay. That's just obvious. I mean, we don't just murder random people and then point. No.
Is it murder when a lioness eats a cub?
Okay. We don't just, I'll put in your terms. We don't just eat other people and point to the animals and say, because they did it, we could do it too in court. No, obviously we are more rational than animals.
Court.
We're more rational than animals. That's the answer you're looking for.
So we're still animals.
No,
and we still have to we still have to work within nature and within society.
That doesn't respond to what I said. We're rational agents. We're moral agents, and they're not.
Morality is subjective.
That was a really bad response.
Morality is subjective.
Unfortunately, not only does that not answer the question, but I don't think you want to get into the meta-ethics conversation, because that's like just stepping into something that I know what to talk about. So I don't know why we're doing that.
Morality is subjective.
That is
my moral position is different than your moral position.
Do you think that means that that subjectivists don't have conversations about ethics?
Oh yeah, they do.
Okay, they do. So you can see that was a really irrelevant point and really bad response.
It applies to the lioness and her cub in the same way that it applies to humanity. What is subjective to the lioness is still subjective to a human.
That's absolutely gibberish. That actually is not saying anything to me right now. I'm really not going to lie. But what I'm saying is you asked for a symmetry breaker between us and the animals, and I gave it to you flat out. That was the answer.
So you want to use the government to write a law to control people's bodies.
Okay.
To tell them that they can't have sex unless they're absolutely certain they want a kid.
I want to make it clear to the audience that since you moved forward with the animal discussion, that was just a concession to that portion.
Fine, we're done with the fucking animal. I asked you a question.
Thank you for that.
Do you want to write laws that tell people when and how to have sex?
When and how? Well, I mean, yeah, in some cases, but.
And why are we regulating men's? Why aren't we requiring men to get fixed? Why is it always on the woman?
It's not always on the woman. Listen,
it is. These anti-abortion laws impact women and women only.
Oh, yep. Okay, so because women are the ones getting the abortions now.
Okay, so
that's
did it take two to tango? Why is the woman suffering the consequences and the man isn't?
Well, I just wanted to be clear that abortion affects women because women are the ones to get an abortion. That's just definitely true. But
right. So why aren't we doing the same thing to men that you want to do to women?
Well,
why aren't we requiring mandatory vasectomies at the time of puberty?
Well, I think my argument. So I haven't given my argument against abortion yet, and then maybe that would be more clear. Like, I don't think it's immoral if you use a condom because like you have some obligation to have children or something. Like you have to have sex to procreate. That's not it. It's just once the organism exists, I think you have a moral duty not to deprive it of its valuable future.
What valuable future? There's no guarantee that it'll have a valuable future.
It's a probabilistic claim.
No, it's not even a probabilistic claim. Probabilistic.
Yes.
We want to go off
get clear what you mean. Do you mean
in all probability, that kid is going to fucking suffer.
That's actually so fucking empirically false. Like, what are you talking about?
No, it's not empirically false. Aside from disease, you have neglect, you have money issues, starvation, you have all kinds of lack of education, lack of access.
Run me the stats on that.
Medicine.
You can, I mean, I can go a couple of routes. Number one, if you want to invoke all those, like, you know, the probability of this, and that, I mean, you can run me the stats on that. But I don't think we hold that justification to people who are born. Like, some people are poor and they don't like their conditions. I mean, we don't just murk them.
They didn't have a choice in it. They're born into poverty. The fetus doesn't
have a choice either.
They're born into poverty.
That's true of both cases, though. The people born into poverty who are currently living and the people, you know, or non-persons in utero, both didn't have a choice. They both don't have a choice. So,
right. You're speaking for somebody who isn't speaking for themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
You're just making shit up.
Well, no, that's not true. I mean, if all I have to do is find you, wait, hold on.
Assuming their position.
If all I have to do is find you a survey of a bunch of poor people saying we would like to live, thank you. We'd rather.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a fetus.
Justification.
I'm talking about a fetus. You're projecting your position onto somebody who has no position.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if it's justification to prevent the fetus from experiencing things like poverty, then why is it not justification to kill people in poverty to take them out of their suffering?
Because murder and abortion are not the same thing.
That's a verbal thing. Like, you're just putting labels.
Murder and abortion are not the same thing.
What's the principle? I'm not asking for like two terms.
Murder and abortion is not the same thing. I'm not going to play word games with you.
Well, no, you're putting
I already told
blanket on the question.
I'm not going to play word games with you. If you want to continue playing word games, I would suggest you do it with a wall. You're going to get more out of it.
I'm actually trying to figure out.
No,
you're
being trying to play word games. You're trying to do meta-ethic bullshit, and I'm not interested.
Meta-ethics. Again, I told you, why are we going the philosophical route with me? You said you don't like,
or whatever the fuck
you don't like
want
philosophy.
to call it.
Let's not do that.
I don't. I have no use for philosophy outside of understanding self. But this...
I'll tell you the point I was trying to make.
You want to force children into homes that will neglect them, homes that will abuse them, homes that will not love them, Homes where the mother will literally blame that child for everything for the rest of its life. You want to force children to suffer. And on top of that, you want to force the women to suffer too.
No, I want to make my case, please, without getting interrupted.
I've heard your case.
Please just be fair. It's a debate. Come on. The case that I'm trying to make is when I look at both cases, I look at a fetus, and let's say that I have knowledge that it's going to grow up in poverty. Just say for some reason I have some access to that. And then I look at a 5-year-old who lives in poverty. I'm asking you not to give me two random terms, right? I'm asking you for the morally relevant or like a principled difference that would justify unaliving one and not the other.
5-year-old's already born.
Okay, so you hold the view that if you are just you're just born, that's when you gain some consideration?
Yep.
Okay, why is that?
Does a fetus have a tax number, a social security number?
Are you joking?
No, you're the one that seems to think that a fetus has fucking rights. What rights does a fetus have? And where does it get these rights from?
Why? That's not a gotcha. I already told you what I meant by right.
A living person that's been born has rights. And we recognize that in the law. There is no law that recognizes the rights of a fetus.
I mean,
because a fetus isn't a fucking person yet.
Do you remember when you said Julian or Jambar was committing a fallacy earlier? Do you know which one you just committed? I'll give you 3 options and you could do A, B, or C. Appeal to authority, A. Appeal to legality, B. Actually, we'll just start with those legality. Two. Oh, okay, correct. Yeah. There you go. So, that's
so fucking.
Yeah.
I don't see a fetus as a living person. I just don't.
Okay.
I see it as a clump of fucking cells.
I understand.
And anybody that would carry a fetus to the 3rd trimester has every intention of wanting to keep that child.
Do you think that 3rd trimester abortions don't happen, like elective ones?
Not generally, no.
Of course.
Roe v. Wade was written very specifically. Did you read Roe v. Wade? I did when they took it down. I read it. It does not allow for elective abortions in the 3rd trimester. Unless it's a direct threat to the mother's life.
Okay, we can. I really don't care about this point too much. We can move on. You're saying that the fetus is not a person, and what's your criteria for personhood?
Consciousness.
Okay. It was weird because you said something about consideration once you're born. So is it like a conjunction of the two, or does one outweigh the other?
Born and consciousness.
Born and
a viable human, somebody that doesn't require the resources of somebody else's body.
Okay. I'll just tell you, I guess, that the issue I used to hold to some consciousness view a long time ago. So the issue I ran into this was cases like coma cases, take it that you have a comatose infant. I can kind of get specific if you're not sure what I mean by the case.
I understand. There's a lot of different medical conditions that can occur with those kinds of things. And say a fetus was starved of oxygen, it would deal with certain maybe brain abnormalities that might cause, what you just said.
Yeah. So since they don't meet having any established cognitive profile, but they're born, they don't meet your conjunction. So so you know, an entailment of that is that the comatose infant is a part of the moral community under your standards.
It's born.
Correct, but
the comatose infant is born.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is self-reliant. It is no longer relying on a person's body for resources.
Yes, sir. But 1 minute ago, I asked if it was a conjunction. So maybe you misheard me.
Maybe I don't understand what the word conjunction is. Why do you keep using? I made it very clear and simple. Consciousness being part of it, but also independent.
Correct.
Free of another person's resources. They are self-independent. They are self-sufficient. They can survive without the mother. And as I've already stated multiple times, 3rd trimester abortions, 99.9999% of them were medically necessary.
That's good to know. If you just didn't know what a conjunction was, you should have just told me. I would have explained it. But a conjunction means that you hold two things, either like that need to necessarily be true or be present or something. So when you affirmed that it was a conjunction, when you confirmed that it was a conjunction, I gave you a case in which it meets the viability condition, but not the conscious condition.
Okay. It's still viability.
Correct.
It can be either or. It doesn't have to be both.
Right. Yeah. So we can make a revision to the argument. It's just that you affirmed that a minute ago. So I thought it was a contradiction. But if the revision... I apologize. No, that's fine. So you need to be either or. Okay. I don't know where else I've been kind of leading the conversation. Like,
I don't understand people's desire to get themselves involved in discussions between themselves and their doctors. It's nobody's fucking business but theirs. Conservatives constantly talk about small government, and then try to interject government into fucking everything, from the books we read to what we do with our bodies to who we even fuck. It's annoying.
Well, I think that there's good arguments, like the one that I hold to be made, that not only is the fetus a person, but when you weigh forcing someone to sustain a pregnancy versus unaliving the fetus, I think that it's better to force someone to sustain the pregnancy.
Yeah, forcing. Keyword.
Yeah, I actually said that. I invoked the term on purpose. I think that's what it is. I guess if you tell people that they can't do something, sure, you're forced to not murder people, you're forced to not SA people. That's fine. So you're forced to not unalive the fetus because they have a future similar to ours.
Not to SA people. Nobody forces me not to SA people.
Yeah.
I don't SA people because I don't want to SA people.
Okay, that you're not understanding.
I don't do it
the
because it's
point.
illegal.
The point flew, but it's fine. I'm just saying, I would rather the mother has to sustain a pregnancy than unalive the fetus when you weigh the two.
And then what? So she sustains a pregnancy. She's not fit to be a mother. Then what?
Then she can give her child up for adoption.
That doesn't work. Adoption is fucking human trafficking.
Okay.
And like, how many thousands of kids graduate out of an adoption system and are fucked for life because of it?
Like, we just really say anything to just like murk people. Like it's human
it's not about murking people.
Please.
It is. You're paying for a fucking human being, and it's expensive.
That someone is going to flush down the fucking toilet at home anyway. So it looks like they're having a better life.
Most people can't afford to adopt.
Okay.
It is not a viable solution.
There's not an issue with the adoption system is different. I don't even know why we're getting into this. I thought this was agreed upon both sides.
It is not a viable solution.
Great. Okay. So again, I think that you can transfer the obligation, but I think it's wrong to unalive it. I think you should sustain the pregnancy because the fetus has a future that's similar to ours. Like you value consciousness and I value the being that can deploy that or has the faculties to in the future.
But it doesn't. It's a fetus.
The fetus doesn't have the faculty won't have the faculty in the future.
May or may not.
It's a probabilistic claim.
Fine, probabilistically, I don't care. It's not thinking in the it's using somebody else's resources without their consent.
I don't really care about that. I mean, I
do.
That's not like a...
I mean, if you don't care about that, then come here so I can plug myself into your kidneys and I don't have to do dialysis anymore, because dialysis fucking hurts. It's actual physical fucking torture. That's not an entailment of my view, is that you have... Because I haven't gotten to my view, but it's not that you have some obligation to sustain everyone's life on the street. Like, that's clearly not the view. That is. Forcing pregnancy is very clearly giving special rights to a fetus to use somebody else's body without their consent. No. Are you familiar with the violinist analogy? No. Okay, it's kind of similar. It's just saying... I may have heard that once before. Yeah. Sounds like that's, something that you're trying to invoke here. I guess my number one response is maybe take two different cases. You can think of the case we made, and then you can think of a case where you're standing, maybe we're at a party and you're standing next to a pool, and I walk by
and I push you into a pool. Or maybe I just nudge you. There's no intent, right? But I just kind of nudge you on accident and you fall into the pool and you're unable to swim. I think it seems very intuitive to most people that I have some special obligation to get you out. Considering you would die if I don't jump in and save you, and I know how to swim. There's only issues if I don't know how to swim. So
seems like a philosophical argument for aughts.
So actually, it was just an analogy. What it's showing is that the things like what you're saying, like, oh, plug into a stranger, or the violinist analogy, all that's doing is showing that cases of sexual assault, maybe there's no obligation there because there was no other option. They didn't engage in this action willingly. And so that is literally like being plugged into by a stranger. That's not going to follow in the standard case of pregnancy, though.
Okay. I disagree. I think that abortion is perfectly fine. And I don't want the government telling people what medical decisions they can make for themselves.
When you say you disagree, were you saying that it's not analogous, or you?
I don't know that it's analogous because it seems to lack nuance. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
I'd have to think more about that.
Okay. I mean,
because to me, it comes down to a philosophical argument of ought. And I don't know how to argue philosophy. I'm not a philosophist. If you want that, go to J Mike. He's like perfect for that shit.
I know J Mike.
Yeah, he's one of my good friends here on TikTok. J Mike is a lot of fun. But I can't keep up with philosophy. I'm not classically trained in this shit.
I'm not either. I don't really know jack shit about philosophy.
I can only give experience and empathy. That's all I can give. And empathy is for the person who's conscious and alive. And that tends to be the mother or the host. She is, or they are, a person, an entity, and they will suffer the consequences. And they shouldn't be forced into that. And I see the car accident analogy as identical to this. Driving a car is not consent to a car accident in the same way having sex is not consent to a pregnancy.
Oh, I don't think you need to there's a difference between consenting to the act and consenting to what's a consequence of the act. So like, for example, I may like for when I nudged you into the pool, right? Like maybe it was even on purpose. Maybe I did consent to that, but I don't really consent to the consequences after. I don't really consent to you drowning. That's just a consequence of the action.
It's for me, this is just about empathy. That's all it is. It's empathy and compassion.
Okay. No, I understand.
Fetus isn't a conscious entity.
Right.
The pregnant person is.
Yes, and then my argument against that is that under my view, fetuses meet the criteria of being persons. So you would understand that if the fetus, I guess the argument's a little different for you, because even if the fetus is a person, they still don't have.
Okay, if it's a person, what's its favorite color? What's its favorite food? What's its favorite hobby?
I don't think nowhere.
What does it think about?
No one on earth has actually ever said that to be a person you have a favorite color. That's not
to be a person, you have to be able to formulate ideas.
When you say have to I don't know what you mean
consciousness, there. To have consciousness, there's got to be likes and dislikes and preferences and positions and opinions, ideas. A fetus, especially in first trimester, has none of that.
If that's true, then if that's true, then infanticide would be morally permissible under your view.
No, it wouldn't be.
Do infants have a favorite color?
Activity.
Do infants have
brain activity? Brain activity.
I know, but when you want to do the rhetoric thing and you try to make me look dumb, hold on.
Babies do have a preference for color.
I didn't ask if they had a preference for color. You said, do they have a favorite color? I'm assuming
they have a preference for
they're
color.
reporting something to you.
They have a preference for color.
Okay.
They respond.
I shouldn't engage with this serious. That's not a serious criteria, but I will take brain activity and like consciousness. That is a theory of personhood. The one that I invoke is just that to be a person, you you are an organism. So you fulfill that criteria at conception.
No.
When you say no, are you denying that they're an organism at conception?
They're an organism, but they're not a person.
Do you think there's some fact of the matter here?
And it still requires suffering on the part of the host.
Do you think there's some fact of the matter when you use the term person? Because I think that's where the confusion's lying. Like, you understand these are just, these are like, they're not just semantic. I don't want to boil them down to just.
There's a bunch of things. It's not as simple as one answer. This is a nuanced topic, and there's no one answer to any of this. And that's why banning abortions is a bad idea. It's going to increase infant mortality rates. It increases maternal mortality rates.
Yeah. Well, if we're doing a utility calculus or something like that, it's actually saving more lives.
It's not saving.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even say persons because I know
starters, I don't come from the perspective that life is sacred for starters.
Oh, well, that's just a weird way to view things. I don't even mean by sacred, but like, you don't think people
life is not sacred.
Should people not have some like prima facie right to life? Like, they should, just because you don't find.
Sure, but that doesn't make life sacred. Childbirth isn't a fucking miracle.
Okay, I never said that. You're just getting random pro-life talking points and making them seem like I said that. Viewers are going to get confused. No, that's not what I'm saying.
I'm not. I'm just making my position known.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear that's not, I didn't say anything about pregnancy being a miracle or anything like that. I just said we have different theories of personhood, and I wanted to be clear that we're just, presumably both of them would have like arguments and like reasons.
Of personhood requires autonomy. They're viable on their own, and consciousness. And
Not
in the first trimester of
though.
a pregnancy, they don't have any of that.
Well, those are also not necessary. So when you group them together, it's confusing because you said that's not a conjunction.
Oh my God, it's like talking goddamn donut.
Referring to me as a donut, like I'm not sitting here answering questions and like
to a donut. Because you keep circling back on something
against abortion on TikTok.
You keep circling back on bullshit I'm not talking about.
No, you have to understand when you use terms, it's confusing.
I don't give a fuck about this, that, or the other. It's very simple. They are viable on their own and capable of consciousness. A fucking fetus in the first trimester is neither of those things. And I would rather not force women to suffer. I would rather not force suffering onto people for my own edification.
Okay. For
my virtue signaling.
Okay. I just want to make it clear, because we have viewers watching and are entertained by this, that the reason I'm asking to get clear on certain terms is when you say conscious and viable, most people take that to be a conjunction. Like, okay, you need to be conscious and viable. The and is implying like you need to have both of these to be a part of our...
for fuck's sake, you pedantic ass. You know what the fuck I'm saying.
You're just being like incredibly bad faith, because
no, I'm not.
Debate, I don't know you. You are
playing word games and being pedantic.
I don't know you. How would I know that you meant or when you told me and?
I figured it would just be common sense.
You thought that you would incorrectly say the wrong word and I would know that you meant something else?
No. I thought that we were having an adult conversation where you could make inferences. I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was speaking to a child.
The inference I was supposed to make that and actually means or, which is the opposite of and?
So we tried this a second time and I'm done.